Hello there and welcome back to episode 2 of my tutorial series for Dwarf Fortress. In this one, we're going to cover a couple of different topics. I want to talk about your first assignments of nobles and administrators. We're going to assign a manager for this fortress. And we're going to talk about how to prepare food and drink for your people, because that's one of the most important things to get done very early on. And we're also going to talk about, if we get lucky, how to breach that little watery tile there, but that might go into the next episode. I don't know yet. So first things first, we don't want to put every single order into the carpenter's workshop manually. Work orders is an area which allows you to tell the game what you want to get done continuously. But you cannot do that before you have a manager. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So we get on over here into the nobles and manager. That's what we need. Press the plus sign and then you get to select who's going to fulfill that role. They are ordered by skill, so that means the more skillful a dwarf is, the higher you'll find him in the list. Our friend or expedition leader is a adequate organizer, and as you see there, the same person can fulfill 2 jobs, and at this point, there's really nothing that really speaks against that. This way, he's even going to use only 1 office for both of his jobs, which is pretty amazing. So we're going to go on over there, click the office so it gets highlighted like this, and then we assign that to our expedition leader. Done. And just like that, our manager is assigned and operating. So we have now unlocked the work orders tab. I'm not going to introduce it with a carpenter. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, because the food and the drink matter is way more important, and we can explain the most fundamental automatics better when we're going for food and drink, because these are really those industries that you want to automate first. You want to make sure that your people have food and drink at all times, right? So let's get that done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm looking for a place where I'm going to do my agriculture at. I don't want it to be too far away from the area where I designated my workshops. So we're going to go this way. Why not? Let's dig a big hallway out here and let's create another hall there. You might already have an idea why we're doing that, huh? So a couple of extra chambers branch off here. And then we're going to make it just like that here. I hope this will fit in. I'm not sure about it. Yeah, well, that's okay. So I'm going to explain what that's all going to be good for in a second. So this area is going to be where I'm going to do my agriculture. Just like I did it here, I'm setting up a bit of a ground structure for the entire industry. There is by all means no right and wrong here. It's just a matter of how effective and efficient will it work. I am setting up something that has some ideas of optimization behind it, but it's surely not well thought through in terms of utilizing the game's mechanics best or something like that. No. I just want to show you how you can do it. Feel free to adapt to those designs as you see fit. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going into the building menu, workshops, farming. So in this tab, we have everything associated with food production. So we're going to select the kitchen. And since I don't want to waste my wood like that, we're going to use a little trick. We're going to make some wooden blocks. Check out what happens. Or do just grabbing some wood, working here a while, And after a few turns in the future, he's really crafting there quite longer. Well, here's what I wanted to show you. So, one piece of log has transformed into 4 blocks. And that's quite a good quota, because when we check this out, a still, let's start with that, can be built with, well, okay, this one can only be built with logs, but basically everything that can be built with either logs or blocks will be quite a nice money save. So I thought we could build those with blocks, but I was wrong about that. Whatever. These blocks will come in handy later. Sorry. So a kitchen, a still, and we're also going to need a fishery. That's where we're going to store all those fish at. There we go. So these are the fundamental pillars which will help our agriculture to be started. We're also going to cover the butcher, the tanner, and the farmer in another episode separately, because these 3 workshops, they basically interact with our livestock. That's something I want to separate from the farming, because I really need to slim down the topics, because in this game every topic is not only wide, it's also quite deep. So I hope you guys understand. I just wanted to let you know. Alright, so the workshops are being set up, but all these things are, frankly said, quite useless without farming plots. So let's make that happen. We're going to set on up farm plots in these 3 caverns here, and I'm making them excessively large. This farming plot area here is really large in terms of Dwarf Fortress. You can, well, maybe not too large, but for a beginner's fortress, this is way more than we need, but at the same time, it's okay. So, when we check out the plants here, we get to select what should be planted when. As you see there, different crops can be planted during different seasons. The first thing that we want to plant out are plump helmets, and we want to plant them the entire year. All the other plants have their distinct uses. There is a usage for every single plant of them. I'm not going to go too deep into that right now, because it would be a little bit too much. This episode I wanted to introduce the basics of food production and farming. We're going to go deeper into the whole farming topic at another episode. So that's like that. So the entire year we can grow those plump helmets. Plump helmets are amazing. You can eat them and you can produce alcohol out of them. So therefore they are just the ideal treat for us. What I don't want now is that everybody is allowed to plant stuff out there. That's bad. Don't do this. We're going to select one person here for that thing alone. The thing is quite easy. The amount of yield we receive is determined in the moment when our dwarf is going to plant it out, and therefore a good farmer is really necessary. If you want to optimize it, you can also go into the labor tab and assign people that harvest the crops instead of the farmer himself. But at the end of the day, the best thing you can do for starters, is to keep it like that. Because this way, harvesting plants gives the planter experience as well. Therefore, the longer this dude is doing the same job, the more plump helmets we will gain. And that's a good thing. So the next thing we want to do, and that's a little bit weird, and I'm going to explain why and what that has to do in a minute. The next thing we're going to do, we get into the labor tab, and we forbid the kitchen to cook with the plump helmets. In this tab, you can select what your people are allowed to cook with and what they aren't. So the thing in this game is, I can't explain it to you why. I can only say it is like that. If you make alcohol out of the plump helmets, you get the seed back. If you cook the plump helmet, you destroy the seed. And that's quite the problem. So you might ask yourself, but why am I planting all these plump helmets then if we're not going to eat them? Well, it's simple. We're dwarfs. The need for drink is much higher than the need for food. As a matter of fact, Dwarfs really need much more alcohol than they need food, and therefore, once this goes low, you're in trouble. Your dwarfs technically can subsist off water, but they will surely try whatever they can to lay their hands on booze whenever possible. So don't do this to yourself. All right, but this alone doesn't make an industry. We need to do a little bit more here. So first off, a few things to know. Alcohol can only be stored in barrels. If there are no open barrels or free barrels available, there's going to be no brewing happening. Same goes for the mushrooms. They won't lay the mushrooms on the ground. They'll only put the mushrooms into barrels. So barrels are quite a valuable tool in your colony, as you can already see. Fortress, I should rather say, but right now we're more like a colony. So let's make sure we have enough barrels, and also make sure that whenever the stuff gets ready, we're going to process it, right? And that's where our work orders come to play. So first off, we're going to go on over there to the carpenter and press work orders. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we always have enough barrels available, because like we already noticed a moment ago, if we ever run out of barrels, the entire industry will falter. So let's do this. Press this one, and now we have here all the stuff that the carpenter can make. We select make wooden barrel. So this is now a one-time order as we see it. The carpenter would now make 10 barrels in one time, and then forget about the work order. This is a quite nice tool if you have a need for something suddenly in a larger number. It's definitely more comfy than clicking add new task 10 times. Believe me, I've been there. So what we want though, we want to set up a automatic. I want to be sure that this dude checks every morning if there's enough barrels, and if not, it's going to make more. So that's how it works. Press the green button here to set up rules. Here, luckily, the game has a lot of useful default rules for us. Suggested conditions. So, amount of empty barrels available is less than X. That's what we need. So, press a plus. And now we tell the game that if the amount of empty barrels is less than 3, this rule shall trigger. Okay, right click to get back. I don't want to make 10 barrels though. I'm okay with 2 barrels or 1 barrel. Let's stick with 1 barrel. What's important to note here is this rule will get checked daily. So every day this dude will now check, are there 3 barrels? Yes. All right, I'm not going to do anything. No, I'm going to set on out and build 1 barrel. You could now also say 2, but keep in mind that if he gets up one morning and finds 2 barrels lying around, he will make 2 and add up to a total of 4. So don't make these orders too large. That's all I want to say, or you will end up with gigatons of something. So we're going to leave it like that. So that's the simplest part. Good-o. So next thing, we're going to set foot into the still and set up a similar work order. Here, the still has way less different things it can produce. Brew drink from plant is what we want. And here I configure it. And I want that every single plant that can be transformed into booze shall be transformed into booze. So let's put this like that. The amount of unrotten fermentable plants is greater than 1. You fire off and brew like a madman. I'll keep this actually at a 10 of 10 because I want to have as much alcohol as possible produced, because alcohol is literally the lifeblood of your fortress. So I'm also setting up the same rule for fruit, because we might not be producing fruit by ourselves right now, but the good news, it also works for leaves, and not only for fruit. So if you ever find any berries or anything like that, that's what you need. You can also forage for brewable stuff at the top layer here. When you look around, there's grapes. I bet you can make wine out of that. Of course you can. There's oats and barley, and all these items up here can be transformed into brew as well. So we're going to go down here, and now we got that settled down. Next thing we gotta go forward to is the kitchen, and here we are going to prepare easy meals and Here I'm going to go for a little bit of a different rule. I'm going to check that we only have never more than, let's say, 14 meals at a time. Every dwarf consumes 2 units of food per season. So basically, that's double the. So I have the season's amount of food they require at my storage at all times. Okay, so we've made sure in the kitchen that our plump helmets cannot be cooked, but they will be transformed into drink. One cool thing about the kitchen, you can use alcohol as an ingredient for your food. The only rule there is that a meal can never consist only out of liquids. So basically, there has to be one solid part, like vegetables or meat or whatever. You can see that the fishery is doing its part there. So the cool part about the fishery is it's working full on automatic. I don't know why, but it is working like that. It has an automatic work order that whenever there's fish in your storage, your dudes will grab that fish, process it, and then it's available for the kitchen. And basically from that point on, we already have a running industry. We're producing alcohol here, we're producing fish here, and we can take fish and alcohol then and make it into food again. And the important part to note there is, let's check it out if we can see them in action. So 5 units of plump helmet will yield 10 units of drink. So whenever you process food, you start multiplying it. And that's why it's so valuable to do so. Just keep in mind that when you go for the fine and lavish meals, the opposite starts to be the case. Fine and lavish meals have to have lots of different ingredients, and therefore you can use them to drain your food stockpiles if they ever run too high, which can happen quite easily. As a rule of thumb, food is way easier to come by than drink. You will have to work much more to fill up your drink tanks constantly. Okay, so here are a couple of cool little tricks that I find useful for your farming area. I draw up a little stockpile zone here. Oh, well, let's make it a little bit larger. And I customize it. And I'm going to reserve this place only to seeds. So whenever our farmers want to do their farming, they can just go on over here, grab the seeds, and get the job done quite quickly. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And we're going to make the same things here as well. That's why I'm setting up all these plazas. So we're going to make a similar field in front of the kitchen where we're going to accept food-wise prepared meals. So they don't have to go for that too much. And we're also going to pick up a little bit of a, well, we're making that larger. And the next stockpile zone here, you might have already guessed it. Whoopsie, I outplayed myself. Is going to be for the drink. So drink is found in the food section, and we put the drink in there. You cannot click there, you have to mark all here. It's a little bit anti-intuitive, but it's better than the original. So, well, in terms of complexity to understand the user interface, that's all I'm trying to say. So, we're also going to tell these stockpiles to draw their resources from down there. This is in so far important because this is kind of a prioritization. If your dudes ever will come up with the idea to just quickly dump down something somewhere else, your haulers will then sort it again into the sections where it belongs. And as you might notice, we're wheezing off. So we have here, they put the seed bags in there. And here we have our Dwarf ale. Here we have prepared hare intestines biscuit. Sounds yummy as hell. And, well, you can also check on out with a pretty wonderful description of what they're doing there. So pond turtle biscuits. You can take this even further and start putting up an entire stockpile for the kitchen's ingredients, so your cook doesn't have to run down here, you can take this really, really far. I just wanted to show you a couple of examples how you can pull it off. So we're going to go on over to the other farm plot, and I'm planting out some sweet pods. There's not that much to say about sweet pods. Only you should know they are basically sweet berries that grow underground, and you can make even more alcohol out of them. I'm just planting some of them extra so we have an extra source of alcohol. Okay, so with that being set up, believe it or not, your fortress is pretty safe for the next few years, probably. Because this is already, as it is, quite effective. A few notes of interest here. If you ever run into the situation that your food or your drink runs low, you can always browse up, get the forage command, and just draw a big rectangle over the stuff here. And you see here that they get marked. Whatever is forageable gets marked. If it's not forageable yet, it doesn't get marked. It's really easy. And if it's processable by your dwarfs, they will process it. You don't even need to know what prickleberries are good for, or beets, or whatever. Your dwarfs know what they're good for. And if you ever run into resources that just give you a big head scratcher, there's a good resource site called the Dwarf Fortress Wikipedia, and I strongly recommend it. The thing with this game right now is a little bit iffy. Let's see, we go on in there, and iffy insofar as detailed informations about certain resources are just not available in the game's user interface. Let's check out barley. This is the barley. Yeah, that's all we know about it, and that's all we're going to know about in the user interface. That sucks. Most of these items can't do a lot more than just being barley or such, you know. And here, prickleberry. The game doesn't tell you that the prickleberry can be processed into alcohol. And if you ever want to know what something's good for, ask the Wikipedia. It's the best source of information that I've found so far. I really hope that we're going to see some mod in the future that allows us to just skip that procedure as it is. But right now, there is no such thing in sight. I'm sorry about that. Okay, but one fun thing here also, as you see, we have mussels that we not the one on the not those on the arm, the one in the water. And mussel shells, they pile up like crazy. Side products are a thing in this game. And since we don't want to waste anything, we're going to make something out of that. So let's, whoopsie, put up a nifty little industry about that. So I want to make it go like this. An extra little corridor. We connect it to this area here as well, because why not? And that doesn't fit in there. Give me a second. It'll all make sense in a second, I promise. And here we go. So, my plan is to set up a workshop in here that starts processing those mussel shells away for us, because they truly are outrageous. You can also just set up a dumping stockpile up there. Show you how. So if you don't want to process them like I do next, you can also just draw a huge rectangle there and go and customize in the refuse area, shells, boom. And then you tell the game to pull its items from the stockpile. And then your haulers will dump the shells outside. I want to use them because I find it a very nice example of how Dwarf Fortress works for you. Okay, so we're going to dig out another little chamber here. And another thing that I want to set up here while we're busy waiting is I want to tell my carpenter that I need beds in my fortress, you know? And whenever the amount of available beds is less than 5, go forth and produce one. We do the same thing now for doors, and as you might have noticed, he's already doing that, like I've ordered him. And here the same procedure. If less than 5, make one of it. This way, my carpenter will prepare over time the items we require to staff out new bedrooms. It's pretty good, isn't it? Alright, so let's chop down some extra trees so our carpenter doesn't run out of business. The items we're crafting right now, some of them can be made out of wooden block, but not all of them. As a rule of thumb, you can't really tell your dwarves what they should use. They always will decide for themselves. So that's a little bit of a bad thing. What's really worth noticing, though, is beds are only makeable out of wood. Therefore, beds are something special. If your fortress has low diversity or low not diversity, a low availability of wood, it really pays off to put up a stoneworker as soon as possible. Here, the stoneworker can be made out of blocks. There you go. So instead of spending one log, we only spent a quarter of a log. That's why blocks are cool. It's just like a little bit unforeseeable where you can use them and where you can't use them. So the stoneworker is very similar to the carpenter, just not in his basic materials, but we don't have any stone to work with in the first place. That's mostly because the aquifer is shutting us off from this. So beating a light aquifer is just the right thing to end our today's episode. So we're telling our dude to carve downstairs into the water. Don't be afraid. It's all going to be fine. So it'll take a moment until the next mining dwarf is going to take that job. Here we're getting notifications about things getting done, and boom, here we go. So you see these water droplets. We want to go now into the wall smoothing tab, and we're smoothing the tiles if we can. So we can't smooth them because they are sand. That's a pity. So we have to carve them out. And here at the carpenter's workshop, I'm setting up another work order here because I want a steady supply of wooden blocks as well. So if the amount of wooden blocks is less than 12, yes, please, that's a good one. Less than 10, you make them twice. We need them. All right, so down here, we're waiting now for the mining dwarf. And this means, what we're seeing here means that this area, these walls, left and right and up and down, will slowly exude water onto the staircase until the field here is filled up and cannot be traversed anymore. But as you see there, it doesn't go too fast. So we have all the time it takes for our mining dwarf to get down there, grab his little pickaxe, and get the job done. So sometimes they just take really, really long for that. That usually means that they are busy with something else. Might be also sleeping, so just be patient. And as you see there, so far, there's not even a tiny little smidge of water. So it doesn't really matter too much that we take that long. That's about as dangerous as a light aquifer goes. Come on, you lazies. There we go. Now we got it. And as you see here, there's a little bit of water. When you press this little blue thingy here, or the hotkey F, you see there's 1 unit of water on the ground. Every piece of ground can carry up to 7 units of water. That's when it's entirely filling the floor. And that's when you drown. So until then, the easiest way to shut down an aquifer is just to build walls around it. And here we can use the wooden blocks again, which is really good because it saves us material. There we go. I was waiting until the next pieces of block got cut. And now the water is beaten. As soon as no more natural wall tiles are around the staircase, no more water will happen. And now we can't just dig down. And we have to repeat the procedure now until we not strike a damp wall anymore. And as you saw there, we immediately got the job cancelled. Here, silt wall. Can we smooth this? No, we can. Too bad. I'm trying to smooth them because a smoothened wall also doesn't exude any water anymore, and it's way less of a hassle compared to chipping down the entire wall and placing down another wall. And that's it. That's all you gotta do to beat down an aquifer. A light one, that is. Heavy aquifers are entirely different beasts. They are like this times 10, maybe more. And they require just a very, very special strategy. Otherwise, you'll lose people. Oh well, we're going to be wasteful for a moment, and that's the end of today's episode. So, I thank you all for watching this. Next episode, we're going to go deeper until we find stone to work with, and then we're going to set up the entirety of the stone industry, and I'm going to set up a proper living area for those people, because the longer your dwarfs don't see their standards fit, they'll grow unhappy. Okay, so thanks for watching yet again. I hope you found that helpful. I really enjoy making these series. Let me know what you have questions about, and I'll see what I can do. Feel free to leave a thumbs up on that episode, or just leave a subscription. Well, not or, and leave a subscription and hit that bell thing, and YouTube will notify whenever a new episode hits town. Also, you find a link to the playlist in the description box, and there are also a couple of links to support this channel. I'd be super delighted if you'd give them a look, and a big thanks to all the people who are already supporting this channel. See you guys next time, and have a good one.